Welcome to World of AI Ideas. I am your host. Now today, we're not just looking at some new trend, we are going to completely dismantle the entire software as a service business model and replace it with something new, a blueprint for this age of intelligence. So welcome. This is the AI Agency Masterclass.
All right, so here's the game plan for today. We've got 4 core modules. First up, we're going to dig into a massive problem, what I called the 95% market failure. Then, we'll look at what's really causing all this chaos with the paradox of cheap code. After we've laid out the problem, we'll shift gears to the solution. And trust me, it's a big one, the context engineering solution. And finally, we'll put it all together with a brand new way to think about money, the outcome pricing model. Let's get into it.
All right, let's kick things off. Module 1, the 95% market failure. And what we're really doing here is a forensic look at something called pilot purgatory. Seriously, this is the place where billions of dollars in AI innovation just goes to die. And figuring out why that's happening is absolutely the first step for you to build a successful agency. Okay, I want you to just look at this number. Seriously, this right here, this is the heart of the entire problem. We've got research from MIT's Nanda initiative, and it's confirmed something pretty staggering. 95% of enterprise AI pilots fail to actually scale. I mean, just let that sink in. We're talking about billions, with a B, billions of dollars being poured into this, countless hours from some of the smartest teams on the planet, and 95 out of 100 of these projects, they never even leave the lab. But here's what you've got to understand, and this is maybe the most important takeaway. This is not a failure of the AI. The tech works. It's a fundamental failure of the approach. So the big question is, why? Why are they failing on this massive scale? Well, it's a structural problem, right? First off, you've got companies treating AI like they're just buying a new printer, you know? It's just a line item on a budget. But it's not a tool. It's a total operational transformation of the entire company. Then you've got what we call the context gap. The model works perfectly in the clean lab, right? But the second you expose it to the messy, siloed, just chaotic data of a real business, it just falls apart. And finally, they're trying to shove a square peg into a round hole. They're taking this probabilistic, kind of guessing AI and trying to jam it into their predictable, deterministic workflows. And of course, it breaks everything because they just don't have the architecture to bridge that gap. And this really gets to the core disconnect that's happening inside these companies. So you've got the official billion-dollar AI projects completely stuck in pilot purgatory. But at the same time, something really interesting is happening down on the ground floor. The leadership, they're looking at a spreadsheet, they see a failed pilot, and they just write off AI as a failure, a waste of money. But the staff, the people who are actually doing the work, they've seen what it can do. They've touched the magic, and they see how valuable it is. So what do? They decide to take matters into their own hands. They go rogue. And this going rogue has created a huge, unregulated shadow AI economy. Just look at this number. A staggering 68% of employees are now using unapproved free-tier AI tools just to get their jobs done. Now, yeah, that's a huge security risk for the company for sure. But for us, it's a massive economic signal. It's proof. It proves that there's this huge pent-up demand for AI that the official top-down projects are completely failing to deliver on. So what does all this mean? Well, this huge failure rate is actually a signal of a fundamental economic shift. Think about it. For the last 20 years, the whole world ran on SaaS, software as a service. You rented a tool. Your revenue was tied to how many humans were using it. You paid per seat. But just ask yourself this, and be honest. Why would you pay for a seat when an AI agent can do the work? That seat-based model, it's collapsing right in front of us. We're moving into a new era, service as software. This is where the agency model wins, because you're no longer selling the shovel. You're selling the whole. You don't rent out the tool, you sell the finished result. Okay, let's move on, because this problem actually gets worse. This brings us to the systemic reason behind that 95% failure rate. We're talking about the paradox of cheap code. And this is the part where even the companies that think they're winning with AI are finding themselves drowning in total chaos, a place we call integration hell. So to really get this, we have to rewind a bit, back to a 19th century economic idea called the Jevons paradox. And it's pretty simple. It says that when technology makes a resource way more efficient and cheaper, we don't use less of it. We use way more of it. It skyrockets. Back then, the resource was coal for steam engines. Well, here in the AI era, the resource is code. AI has made the cost of writing code basically zero. But what's the result? It's not clean, simple, elegant software. No. It's a messy, uncontrolled explosion of complexity. And this paradox, it creates this nasty feedback loop that just feeds on itself. So, step 1, AI makes writing code super cheap. Step 2, because it's cheap, developers create an absolute explosion of code, making everything way more complex. Step 3, this leads to companies having dozens, sometimes hundreds, of different AI tools that don't talk to each other. And finally, step 4, all of this mess accumulates into something we call AI technical debt. The company is literally drowning in code that nobody can manage or verify. It's a total digital mess, and they made it themselves. And believe me, this has a real, painful, and very measurable cost. We've got data now showing that developers are spending 39% of their time. Think about that. That's almost 2 full days every single week, not creating cool new things, but just on integration. They're stuck writing what they call glue logic, which is just tedious manual code to try and make all these different AI systems talk to each other. So the job itself has totally changed. It's not about creation anymore, it's about the painful manual work of connection.
And this is your opportunity. This is the core opportunity for the new AI agency. Let me be clear. The market does not need another company selling another chatbot that doesn't connect to anything. What the market is desperately screaming for is a grid operator. It needs an architect. It needs someone like you to come in, look at all this chaos, and just connect the wires. That is the high-value, high-margin service you're going to sell.
Okay, so that brings us to Module 3, the solution. We've defined the problem, we've agitated it, now let's talk about how to actually solve it. This is how you stop selling a commodity, something anyone can do, and instead build a real defensible technical moat around your business. It's called the context engineering solution. Now, I need you to listen very closely, because what I'm about to say is probably the single most important lesson in this entire masterclass. Ready? Prompt engineering is a commodity. It's over. Anyone can learn to write a better sentence to get a better answer from a chatbot. It is not a real long-term skill. Context engineering, that is the moat. That is the deep architectural skill that will create real lasting value for your clients and for you.
So, what is context engineering really? Well, think of it as the art and science of building the entire information environment that an AI lives in. You're not just asking it a question, you are building its world. You're designing its working memory, kind of like the RAM in a computer. It's about creating a safe, reliable space for the AI to think, connecting it carefully to a company's private data, and putting up firm guardrails so it literally cannot go off the rails.
And this skill, it's built on 5 key pillars. First up, you have system instructions. Think of these as the hard-coded constitution for your AI, the rules it can never, ever break. Second is memory management. This is where you use tech like vector databases for quick, short-term memory and knowledge graphs to give the AI a much deeper, long-term understanding of how things are connected. Third, you've got external data integration. You'll hear this called RAG. That's just a fancy way of saying you're securely connecting the AI to the company's private files and live data. Fourth is tool orchestration. This is all about making sure the AI can use other software and APIs reliably without messing up. And finally, output structuring. This is huge. It means you force the AI to give you back clean data, like JSON, instead of just random, unreliable sentences. So why does all this technical stuff matter so much? Because big companies crave one thing more than anything else: certainty. They hate chaos. They run on predictable, repeatable processes, and they will pay a huge premium for reliability. See, a creative chatbot that just kind of guesses all the time, that's a liability. But a deterministic system built with a framework like LangGraph, that's a strategic asset because it doesn't guess, it executes a plan. It follows a map perfectly every single time. So let's talk about the actual tech you're going to use. This chart breaks down the main options out there. You've got things like CrewAI, which is pretty good for creative teams, and AutoGen, which is fine for research and just messing around. But for the big enterprise clients you want, only LangGraph gives you the kind of high reliability control that they demand. And here's why. It's built differently. It's basically a state machine. In simple terms, that just means if step A fails, the system knows exactly what to do next. Maybe it tries step B, or maybe it sends an alert to a human. That level of bulletproof reliability is what businesses will pay for, and it's why LangGraph is the way to go for real production work. Okay, so we've got the market problem and we've got the technical solution. Now let's get to our final and maybe the most important module. Let's talk about the money, how you get paid. This is the outcome pricing model. And this, my friends, is the key to detaching your revenue from your time, so you can actually scale a real business and not just be a high-paid freelancer forever. So how does this actually work? Let's use a super simple example. Let's say you build an AI sales agent for a client. Now, in the old world, you would have billed them for the hours you spent coding it, right? Forget that. We're throwing that model in the trash. Instead, you charge for the result. The value isn't the code, it's the actual business outcome. So let's say one successfully booked sales meeting is worth $250 to your plant. That's what you charge. $250 every time the AI books a meeting. Simple as that. This right here is the absolute core philosophy of this entire model. You never, ever bill by the hour again. You bill by the outcome. It doesn't matter if it's $250 for a sales meeting or 99 cents for a closed support ticket. Your revenue is tied directly to the value you create. And when you do that, when you finally detach your revenue from your time, your profit margins can just explode. Your AI agents are out there working 24/7, generating revenue for you while you sleep. This is how you build a scalable business, not just another job for yourself.
Now look, to actually pull this off, your contracts have to be buttoned up. There are 3 things you absolutely need. First, your pricing has to be metric-based, a clear price for a clear outcome, no ambiguity. Second, you should offer a performance guarantee. Seriously, this means if you don't hit the agreed-upon KPIs, like a certain accuracy rate, they get their money back. This builds a massive amount of trust. And third, and this is critical, you need strong contractual guardrails. You have to get the lawyers involved to precisely define what success looks like and, just as important, to limit your liability if something goes wrong.
Listen, we are at one of those moments in history. The actual infrastructure of the intelligence age is being built as we speak, right now. All that chaos we talked about, the disconnected tools, the failed pilots, that's not a problem. That's the raw material for the new economy. So the question you really have to ask yourself is pretty simple. Are you going to be a spectator and just watch this whole revolution happen from the sidelines? Are you going to be the architect who steps into that chaos and actually wires the grid? The choice is yours. The opportunity is right here, right now. For more blueprints on how to build in this new economy, make sure you subscribe to World of AI Ideas. Class dismissed.